Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of Teach, Sleep, Repeat. My name is Dylan.
My name is Hayden.
And it's us. It's just us. I know you're used to seeing the alternating blue and purple, but you've got a purple light instead. So we don't have anyone, do we, Hayden?
Nope.
Simple as that. You just has us two. There we go. That's all we need. Some people, I must say though, we're really split on the whole guest thing. People love having the guests on. But there's a certain group that we have who prefer our episodes on our own.
Who just love us. They just love us.
I know, right? It's probably 2 or 3 people, probably our parents. But it is just us. We will get more guests back. I think probably for the rest of the summer holiday, it will just be us because people are chilling out. They're having a relaxing time. So we will start afresh in the new year. But Hayden, how have you been, pal? We are well and truly in that mid-summer holiday range, aren't we? And I do compartmentalize the summer break. And the whole episode last time was about it. But I feel like I'm in the zone now where I am just switched off. I'm relaxing. It's all good.
Time has started to fly. It's always this bit of the summer. It goes very quick. It feels like we had literally just recorded our last episode. I don't even know how it's been a week, but here we are. And in that week, I think it's because you don't do a whole lot, do you? Like realistically, when you're at work every day, tons of things happen. And then in a week, a lot of stuff's happened. Whereas realistically, I've had a couple of days of doing nothing, just relaxing. We went away for the weekend to Battle near Hastings. Stayed in an abbey, as you've been.
Did you? Where did you stay?
Stayed in the abbey. In the
Did you have full access to all the grounds?
Right, just for context, Dylan's been winding me up all week because I repeated myself about 3 times, and now he won't stop making me repeat myself.
So where did you go at the weekend?
We went to Battle and we stayed in an abbey, and it was really nice and historical, and we learned some stuff for a friend.
Are you meaning
to
keep saying 30th. That you went to Battle?
Yeah.
Because you keep saying we went to Battle. I'm like, do you mean Hastings? And you've just got your words completely wrong.
No, we went to the town called Battle.
Oh wait, what? No way. They've named a town Battle.
Yeah, did you not know this? The whole time I've been telling you this, and
I thought you were just trolling me. I thought you were just saying, "Oh yeah, they name everything after." They've not named a town Battle.
The place is called Battle. It's near Hastings.
They are really milking that, aren't they?
Well, okay, look. So the place
is
called
it just
Battle
outside the village of 1066 or something? Like what?
Right, I'm gonna give you a very quick lowdown. Okay.
Okay.
So this town didn't exist until after the Battle of 1066.
Well, it'd be very weird if it was there beforehand and they
obviously
the battle.
We can only battle
the battle or the town called Battle.
Can you imagine? They're like, it's convenient that we named this town this because there's a bunch of people fighting over there.
Oh, jeez, wow! Imagine that. You want to know the story behind the town called Sandwich? It's crazy.
Oh man! Right. So William the Conqueror, he won the battle, built a massive abbey there.
Where?
Afterwards. He's in a town called Battle. At the time, it was called nothing. And then they just built the town around it, and the town's called Battle.
I thought the place was called Hastings. Well, that was the whole point.
No, we're near Hastings.
The Battle of Hastings. So
yeah, of course. So I don't know if it's in Hastings. I think it's just near Hastings. I could be completely wrong.
So
but it's certainly
it should be called the Battle of Battle.
I think so. Oh, the Battle of Battle. Yeah,
the Hastings.
It's probably in Hastings. I should really do my research before I say stuff on the pod. But the cool thing was we stayed in the abbey.
You stayed in the abbey, and did you have access to the grounds whilst it was?
We had full access to the grounds in the abbey that we stayed in Battle.
And where was it? Battle. That's crazy.
Near Hastings. Yeah.
No, brilliant.
So,
the listeners are thinking, why am I listening to 2 NPCs do a podcast? What is going on? The whole point was Hayden just repeated himself twice, and as soon as Hayden does something wrong, obviously can't let him forget it. So
no.
And you had a nice time in Battle. Good.
Yeah, and we stayed in the abbey. And no, I'm joking. It was really good. But a highlight of that was when you posted a video of me aerating my lawn. So if you listen to last week's episode, you'll know how riveting my weeks are. And I talked about the special shoes that I bought to punch holes in my lawn. I got caught. I was filmed whilst doing it, obviously looking quite silly. And it's the most viral video we've ever had, so that's good.
It's actually quite demoralizing when if you go onto our Instagram and look at our reels, there's somewhere like very clearly we've gone in and edited it and cut it, and it's zooming in, it's zooming out, it's got our little logo at the end of the reel. It's all trying to be like, if it gets 1,000 views, people will see our podcast, they'll come and listen to it. It's just up like this picture of Hayden looking like an idiot doing his lawn. Yeah, all right, 20k views or whatever it is, unbelievable.
Yeah, so thanks everyone for tuning into that. That's nice. Me looking like a buffoon.
I think the moral of that story is don't bother with social media. Just upload things, and one of them will hit. So maybe we'll just do that from now on.
Maybe it's because it was me.
Could be, because you did look, like I can't even think of a word that's able for me to air on this podcast. But let's just let the people watch it themselves, shall we?
We had a nice comment, didn't we?
That was on a different reel, by the way. Okay. Let's go into this very quickly.
Yeah, I don't
this
care.
This week we had our first little bit of what I would say was just actually quite a very trollish, not very nice comment on one of our posts. Which
don't know what they're talking about. Carry on.
You might notice Hayden's moved his headphones down a bit because the comment was about how big. This is the actual comment. Sorry, it was, "Wow, check out the 5 head on you." No joke, no laughing, just very, very mean. Just pointing out the fact that, Hayden, you address this, Hayden. It does look like you've got a very, very big forehead.
Yeah, I mean, 5 head is nothing. Look at this. Woo! It just goes on, and we've made this joke before. It never stops. I don't care. Bring the hate, whatever, okay? I don't care. Mate, made me laugh, to be honest with you. But yeah. Dylan was being my protector. He's mostly horrible to me, but he was being my protector. He deleted the comment before I saw it. Obviously, he told me about it afterwards, but he did delete the comment.
I was really thinking. I'll delete it for him. Because it's not even funny. If it was funny, I'd keep it and I'd be like, that's all right. But it was just being mean. But then it was like honestly, like 2 days later, and I was sat with him and I was like, I've got to tell him because I know I knew you'd find it funny, really.
Yeah, I don't get offended that easy. Not really.
And maybe you get some new headphones.
Yeah, well, I don't think it's the headphones that's the problem.
Yeah, I've got the same headphones on, so
yeah, I think it's the head.
I wonder what it could be.
Anyway, enough about me and my week. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, not much, to be honest. Like I said, do you know that the first couple of weeks of the summer holidays where you're winding down a bit, you're forgetting about work as much as possible? I will say that I've not thought about work in the last week at all. And it's just been one of those weeks where it doesn't matter if you just have the morning off, you know what I mean? Just like lounging around, doing whatever you do. Seeing friends, gone out for food, all that good stuff where you just relax, fully in that mode of relaxing. And I will say, I'm scared. I don't know if other teachers feel this way. I'm always scared to look at my bank account because I've got one of those bank accounts that sorts things into categories for you. So if I really wanted to make myself wince, I could go into my bank account right now and click food and drink. And I think I would be a little bit worried about how much I've spent, because it does just turn into this black hole of just, we'll go out for lunch one time. Lunch is like...
Oh, wait, no, sorry. That's just my millionaire money winnings. But my food and drink account. Oh, no.
Don't. Stop it. You made me do that episode, and now look where we are. Just using it against me at every possible opportunity. But it's
everybody, go back and check out our episode on Dylan winning some money on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. It's actually a really exciting episode, and I like to wind him up about it because he gets awkward about money.
Yeah, brilliant. Really good. Very good. But anyway, I can still appreciate how... I know inflation and stuff. Lunch has just doubled. You go out for lunch. Lunch isn't like a £7-8 thing anymore. You can't have lunch for two for 15 quid, 20 quid. It's 35 quid now, minimum. She's like, yeah, it's 35 quid. Drinks £7 for a pint. It's like, what planet are we living on? Where it's £7 for a pint now. But it's where we're at, Hayden. And do you know what? So summer holidays, we're not going away this summer holiday, so we just treat it like that money.
Yeah, and I tell you what though, there is still one place. There is a gold mine. There is a gold mine. If any listeners are in sort of the Thanet area where we are,
very specific.
There's one place. Yeah, Thanet in Kent. We like to go to Battle in Kent. We like to go to one place for lunch. Dylan, do you know what I'm thinking?
Are you thinking because it's cheap? Oh, Crampton's.
But very good. Crampton's pub in Broadstairs. Oh my days.
Banging. I actually
unbelievable lunch.
Would love for them to sponsor this at some point. So, maybe we'll clip this, send it to them. Crampton's lunch is 10 out of 10. And what do we love, Hayden, about when we go to Crampton's lunch? What is our favourite thing now? Because we've done it so often.
What do you mean? What, the fact that they know us?
Yeah, well, not only that they know us, they know what we're going to order. We don't even need to say our order anymore. They're just like, yeah, we're going to. And to the point now where we walk in and the lovely waitress will bring over our sauces. That's exactly what we want, and just put it on the table.
Yeah. Oh, not sure whether we should be proud of that or.
No, it's
just nice. It's good service. It was always nice. It's a nice touch, isn't it, when people in a business that you go to regularly do just make the effort to know you or whatever. Very good lunch. Very reasonable
Hairdressers,
price.
Really, isn't it? Hairdressers is the only other place I can think really that.
What's that?
Of course, that's a whole culture you don't even go into, isn't it?
My hairdresser's me, actually, standing over a bath.
No, I walked past my hairdresser literally today. Went out for lunch, don't you know, today. Walked past my hairdressers today and he just shouted out, "All right, Dylan?" I was just like, "Yeah, you're right, pal." And you know, when you go in, you just don't say anything. It's like, "What are we doing for you today?" It's like the most pointless question that's ever asked in the barbers. I'm like, I was like, just the usual. And he's like, "Yeah, cool." And then just does it. No problem.
Have you ever, in your lifetime, not had the same haircut that you get now?
Yeah, so when I was younger, maybe I can dig out a photo for the Instagram. Do you know at the minute, like I get like a really short back and sides, don't I? And then the top just kind of just goes over.
Yeah.
When I was younger, I wouldn't say a mullet, but I would have the back of my head as long as the top of my head. And this is more like over now, but I used to like spike it. Used to be all different spikes everywhere. And I used to do that all the way down, back of my head as well. I've got a big head. Don't know what I was thinking. Wasn't the best haircut for me to, make my head look a bit smaller. I was like, how can I make my head look as big as possible? And I'm hoping, Hayden, you've asked me for a very specific reason, because I can imagine the Instagram roulette right now of your hairstyles through the years, because it was absolutely incredible.
I mean, that wasn't the reason, but yeah, my hair changed a lot over the years, obviously to the point of nothingness now.
Is it because you knew what was going to happen and you thought, I've got to make the most of this?
No, however, I did. You know how Facebook shares memories, like shows you memories from the past. I don't know if you saw, but I shared it the other day. 12 years ago, I said, "I swear I'm going bald," or something like that, with a ... And I was trying to think, 12 years ago, I definitely did. I started shaving my head maybe, I don't know, 8 years. No, yeah, about 8 or 9 years ago.
You were 3 years into teaching, right?
No, it was after my first year of teaching.
Wow.
Yeah, I only did 1 year of teaching with hair.
Mm-hmm.
So that was like 5 years before that I was like, my hair's like thinning. It was a bit strange. Okay.
And you had a couple of years before you shaved it, when we all knew, pal. So.
I know. So I would have been, like 18, 19 when I wrote that. Imagine being 18, 19 and being like, "Oh, I think I'm going bald." You just, obviously at the time I was like, "Of course I'm not. I'm 18. There's no way I'm going bald."
Oh, it turns out I was.
Already.
Right. Anyway, bald ready. Is that good?
That's
ready?
the worst. That's such a bad joke.
I think we need to move on, because what we've done there is managed to talk about absolutely nothing for 15 minutes. So well done for getting this far. I'm looking forward to this, what we want to talk about today. So should we go straight into it?
Let's do it.
Okay, so this chat that we're going to have, Hayden, it's born of something that's been brewing for quite a while. And you've all seen the title. It's about toxic TikTok. And I think if you say TikTok to an educator, what are you laughing for?
It sounds funny. Toxic TikTok.
Got to get that clickbait in there somewhere. But if you're an educator and someone says TikTok to you, I think straight away it will throw up you being on one side or the other. I think it's very divisive at the minute.
Straight away, I'll throw up. Yeah,
you'll literally throw up. But the point I want to make before we start is I don't think this is a new thing. I think this is something that's in the spotlight right now. But I had the same thought when I joined Twitter about 8 or 9 years ago as an educator, and I went off it straight away because I got this idea of what the ideal teacher looks like. And it was almost like that Instagram versus reality thing of all the best bits go online and you feel kind of inferior, and we'll dive into that. So I want to just say firstly, I don't think this is a new thing, but recently there's been a rise of these TikToks online, and it's breeding a bit of a toxic culture among staff and what they think is expected of them, and what makes, in their eyes, a good teacher, because they're seeing it online, it's getting thousands of likes, thousands of views, millions of views. And just in general, Hayden, what's your initial thought on TikTok and the kind of impact it might be having? And, what do we see on TikTok? What are we talking about here?
I think I just want to pull it back a little bit for 1 second, because when you were talking, it made me realize that there is a little bit of a difference in the way we use toxic with this, I think. Because when we talk about toxic schools, we're quite often talking about people who are actively, literally being horrible and being toxic and being manipulative and nasty. Whereas I feel like this is a bit more of that other kind of toxicity where it's almost like, like toxic masculinity, where it's kind of like everyone's accidentally contributing almost, like passively because of the culture, contributing to what makes it so bad. And I think that's probably, I don't know if you agree, that's probably more like what this is, right? People maybe even making TikToks because they think it's good and they just want to share this great thing they've done, but kind of accidentally contributing to the toxicity of like expectation that then comes on teachers, right?
Yeah, I think the word maybe we're looking for is toxic positivity sometimes, isn't it? That idea of, no one in this situation is sat on TikTok saying, you must do this because if you don't, you're awful. And these expectations are really high. I think what we see instead, a big problem that we see instead is, especially inexperienced teachers, and we'll come on to this in a second. There's a bit of a post I want to read to you about TikToks. But I think where the younger generation, especially, I think we're kind of just out of that generation now in our 30s. I think if you were to go and speak to ECTs, where do they spend most of their time? Probably on TikTok. And as soon as TikTok hits the algorithm and it knows you're a teacher because you've watched an education post all the way through, it's going to hit you with them one after the other. And I can imagine a situation where an ECT is sat there, TikTok after TikTok after TikTok of someone spending 5 days doing one display in their classroom, someone else spending 50 quid on some resources to make a point, someone else recording themselves doing something in the classroom, and then thinking that this is an acceptable standard or something that needs to happen in order to be a good teacher. And it's, I think a lot of experienced staff, especially on Twitter or X as it's called, do have this idea of apprehension, and I'm definitely on that side of apprehension around social media and TikTok especially. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I use TikTok probably more than you because I get, everyone takes the mick out of me for sit there and scrolling on TikTok. It's terrible. It's really addictive. And I haven't come across loads of teacher stuff, but I think it's because I'm just not really looking for it. I'm on TikTok just to like watch silly memes and stuff. But when I have come across them, there has been a slight feeling of, what's the word? Like I'm not good enough, like not like jealousy. I'm not even envious of what
inferiority,
doing, really.
right?
Yeah, I guess so. That's what it is. And it's often male teachers. It really knows that the algorithm's so good, isn't it, at getting you? Because obviously there's just going to be loads of videos of both genders. But quite often it's a male teacher that comes up in my feed and he'll be like, that sounds really silly, but he'll be like really young, good looking, and like have this amazing rapport with his kids. And like he'll never film the kids, but he'll be in class and he might just do something really funny or like show how amazing he is at getting them engaged or how much they love listening to him. Something like that. And I'm always a bit like, that's good. I feel like I'm becoming less like that as I get older, and oh no. And you sort of start worrying a little bit about yourself. But I haven't engaged with it tons, I'll be honest with you. I know other people have got way like further down the rabbit hole of edu-tox, as you could call them. It's probably a name.
Probably made something. I think what you made there is a really good point that I had not considered about how more experienced staff might still fall into that trap. Because from my point of view, I'm just, maybe because I don't use it and I've not had those feelings, right? But from what I've heard from people is I'm really worried about inexperienced staff seeing a certain level as the gold standard and that they can't be a good teacher if they're not doing certain things, which has nothing to do with being a good teacher, like displays or, the way you act with the children, which is obviously important, but there's lots of ways to be a good teacher. And the ways I see being promoted are heavily induced in workload and heavily induced in even spending money in your classroom and things. But the idea that as we grow older and maybe we struggle a bit more to have the automatic rapport of the children, just as that generational gap increases, I can see actually younger teachers on that platform definitely having an effect. Actually, I've not really thought about that.
I've really worried about it over the last sort of year, that exact thing. I don't know if it's silly or not, but and it is exactly that. It's just this idea that as I get older, I feel like there's more of a risk of me not connecting with them as much because I'm just 1 year further from their age. And I've got to be careful because I'm not trying to say that the older you get, the less rapport you can have with your kids, because that's not true. But I do fear that it is just easier when you're younger. If you are closer to their age, it's easier to get that rapport. Maybe you don't have to put as much work in. It just comes a bit more naturally because of your age difference, rather than them seeing you like, oh, you're my parents' age now, or maybe even my grandparents' age. Whereas when I started teaching, I definitely was not. Yeah, I definitely wasn't any of that.
Older brother age, weren't you?
Yeah, really? Exactly. Realistically, there was like a 10-year gap between me and most of those kids. So yeah, it's a real concern. I thought I was being a bit silly this year, but maybe other people share that feeling as well. Don't know.
No, I've not really considered it before. It's really interesting. So basically, I wanted to start off then because there's loads we can cover here because it's such a broad spectrum, and I think we can talk about TikTok in general. Let's start off with the effect it has on teachers watching TikToks. Okay, so we'll come on to other things later on, like teachers using TikTok. But for now, there was this post I saw on Reddit, and it was from an ECT. And I think this sums up exactly what we're saying in this idea of, a very keen ECT really wants to do the right thing, has maybe been influenced in a certain way from TikTok. So this is what she said. The title was, should I keep going? Should I go into school to set up my class during summer? A question we talked about last week, how it's different for different people. And here's what she said. I keep seeing TikToks all over my For You page about endless teachers spending days of their holiday setting up their classroom. I've just finished uni and this is my first ever class, so I'm a bit clueless. And that's the bit that I think is important. This idea of, I remember being an ECT and you want as much help as possible from others. So you see what's going on and you kind of copy it and do it yourself. Exactly what I did, but just in a different scope here of TikTok. So nobody has pressured her. No one's even mentioned that I should go into school in terms of SLT. So there's no pressure from there. But the two ECTs gave me conflicting advice at my school. One said they never went in during their first ECT year and it was fine. And the other one said they went in and preferred it as the classroom was exactly how they wanted, even if they put in the extra information. At that point, that's like traditional, isn't it? Like, you would get conflicting advice sometimes and you kind of just need to decide for yourself. But this is what's her problem, is seeing the TikToks as well of everyone else seeming to do it and getting good feedback for it. I'm not sure whether this is a bad thing to admit, but I'm not really picky about how my classroom looks. As long as I end up having everything I need by the school's regulations, I'm not one of those people that wants to spend a whole year making the classroom a Pinterest dream. Will I be looked down upon for not going in? It's been a long year of training, and for me, I wanted the break. So that really, really struck home for me, because a really genuine post, a really genuine person, really wanted to do the right thing, has a good outlook, in my opinion, which is what will be. It's fine. I've got other things to focus on. But because of this kind of TikTok culture, her head's been turned and she's worried she's not doing enough. And I just want to kind of reach out to this person and say, I don't know what you think.
Well, it's that confirmation bias, isn't it? It's like no one's making a TikTok being like, wow, look how boring my classroom is. I haven't changed it this year at all. Like, no one is doing that. The only people making TikToks are on the extreme end of, I'm making this TikTok because I think this is so good. It's actually worth me sharing and getting like comments from strangers on it because I think it's really good. So dangerous territory, basing anything off of social media in general, particularly TikTok right now. I mean, it's good that she had the other or recent ECT saying, no, I didn't do anything. At least there was someone. Imagine if they'd both said, yeah, of course we go in. The classroom's got to look. He's got to do all these things. It's got to look like this. You've got to have this tree in the corner. You have to, because every reading corner has a tree. You have to do this. You have to do that.
Where are your fairy lights, man? Jeez.
Yeah, exactly. You haven't got pillows on the floor that you've bought?
Yeah, from your own pocket. What was really interesting for me, though, and it kind of highlights an issue that I just really don't want to happen, is she's in a school where there is no SLT unreasonable pressure. There is no someone at the top down saying, you need to do this in your own time, and that's that. She doesn't even have that, but she still is easily going to fall into that trap of spending hours and hours and hours doing extra stuff because of a different kind of toxic route, if you like.
Well, it's just the culture, isn't it? And funny enough, I screenshotted a comment from a Facebook thread somewhere, and I'm just going to read it to you because it's really, really relevant. It's the same sort of thing, and it's about this culture. So I don't even know who it was. I literally screenshotted the comment, and it says, the 6-week holiday is so important. I do not think I could cope without it. However, I have done so little as my brain and body just had to recover from the brutal rigors of teaching. Is this a waste or just a necessity? And it was that last sentence that made me think, oh man, isn't this culture terrible that this person is asking if it's a waste of time that she's used her holiday as a holiday? Like, you just think, oh my God, isn't that terrible? This person's worrying guys, I've accidentally used my holiday as holiday. Oh man, I've wasted all that work time that I could have done for free. Yeah. I think that's kind of the same sort of thing that we're talking about in terms of.
I think it's exactly the same. And that's always going to be there, isn't it? The kind of almost introspective thing you put on yourself of God, am I a good enough teacher? The point, I think, is the wider point here is what TikTok's doing is exacerbating that and almost introducing it to people who might not have had it otherwise. Because there's always going to be some people who think they're not doing enough. They can take advice. They can help themselves with that. We can try and help those people. But it feels like we're going to catch more people like this, especially inexperienced ones who don't have the confidence to turn around and say, like me and you potentially, to say, no. If I don't do anything this summer, my kid's first week back is still going to have excellent maths lessons, excellent English lessons. I've done it before. I know what they need to know. I know what's fantastic in the first week.
Yeah.
We're confident enough to say that. And we know that having one or two displays maybe not completely up to date isn't going to impact the child's learning too much. Whereas this person might think, gosh, everything needs to be picture perfect, else the children won't learn. And it kind of, I really want to get your input here. It moves on to my next point on, especially inexperienced staff, of I find with TikToks, there is a focus on what's good in terms of the algorithm, good in terms of looks nice, good in terms of aesthetic, but not always what's good in terms of best teaching practice. Because I think good teaching practice most of the time looks really boring.
Oh, that's a tough one, isn't it? Oh man, I don't know where to start with that one. I don't know if I agree exactly with the way you said it. I think sometimes there's a stigma that when teaching looks boring, it's not good. That's definitely not true. I have seen teachers who other people might judge and say, oh, they're not doing all of the flair, and they get incredible outcomes and they have great relationships with their kids. And you're like, yeah, but they clearly did a very good job there. So this preconception you have about all of the flary stuff maybe isn't tied as closely as we think to what makes someone a good teacher. But I do think you can also do the flary stuff and be a really good teacher as well.
What do you mean by flary stuff?
It's hard, like I don't know, like the performance element that goes into it. Maybe like doing all of the classroom environment stuff to the extremities, like the TikTok level, Instagram level, like way your classroom looks. I've seen people with really not like classrooms that do not look like that, who still get amazing outcomes with their children. The classroom just isn't really a tool for them. They don't really use it. They're not really interested in doing that. It's maybe information around the room. It doesn't look all jazzed up with like triple backed borders and all this rubbish. But they still get great things out of their children.
No, that's exactly what I mean. I'm saying good teaching it can look boring. I'm not saying if it's a fancy background, it's bad teaching. But I mean, right. What I'm saying is good practice doesn't have to look fun or good or aesthetic. I think good practice is completely detached from how fancy your room looks and how fancy maybe it comes across in terms of, for example, I've been in observations before. I've observed different maths lessons and stuff across the years. And you often see maybe staff saying, I don't mind it if they talk. I don't mind it if they chat. As long as they get the work done. So as long as they get the work done, I don't mind if they chat. I used to say that all the time. My ideas have moved a little bit on this because I actually think it's sometimes you can get the work done, have a nice chatty fun classroom maybe where they're talking about their weekend, but that child then could have moved on to the challenge and been pushed on had they been working hard. And I think good practice sometimes looks like it can look like a silent classroom where children are just working hard. And it doesn't have to be frowned upon to have this idea of, oh, what did we do today? Well, we did some guided practice on the board. They had to go in pairs and then they worked silently for 30 minutes doing this piece of work and they got loads out of it. And I think what we might see because of the TikTok age is that if you're not putting everything to a song and there's not a dance for the children to do every 5 minutes as a mnemonic, it's not a good lesson. And I think they are completely separate. You can have fantastic lessons that have songs and mnemonics and dances, and you can have fantastic lessons which is just guided practice, children working hard doing some work. I'm very wary of TikTok, the TikTokification of teaching, making people think that good teaching has to look a certain way, which includes huge exertion of effort, huge amounts of resources going into it, but it just doesn't have to look that way.
Well, schools often bring in policies as well, don't they, that do those sorts of things where it's like, good teaching only looks like this, and we've laid it out in this policy. So every lesson now needs to have a certain level of involvement. You remember we talked about involvement stickers once upon a time, didn't we? Like loads of places do those sorts of things where they...
Should we very quickly just clarify what involvement was? Because I thought it was hilarious. It was us asking the children to say how involved they thought they were out of 5 at the end of every lesson. As if a child ever goes, 2. No. Always 5 or 1. No one ever was actually thinking, how involved was I?
Yeah. But within these, exactly. Within these policies, there are lots of things that were like, good learning looks like this now. So your children have to be active and engaged in this particular way, or otherwise it's bad learning. And you're right in terms of that was just not true. It just wasn't true. There were people doing conducting their lessons in different ways that would have, under that policy, been deemed as unsatisfactory. That's not a good lesson. And when realistically, it's like no, the children got so much out of that lesson, and they were just working hard quietly for 30 minutes because that's what was required of that task, and they needed to be deep thinking. So I think that's a dangerous thing. Policies can sometimes do that in the same way that TikTok is doing it as well.
Yeah, no, look, I completely agree with that. It can come from SLT, and the problem with the TikTok kind of generation is it's now going to come from an external source as well. And it's I don't want to put these people down, because I've seen some fantastic teachers put so much effort into something, and there's a kind of an alternative issue here where people like us come along and say, what are you doing putting all that effort in and all this TikTok? You're making us look bad. Like, we don't want to do all this. It's like, we don't want to put you down because some of the stuff you're doing is fantastic. I just would never want an inexperienced teacher to look at something like that and think that's the only way to teach well. In fact, good practice is not always linked to aesthetics, is the point I'm making.
Yeah, and I think that's a really important clarification to give to people. It's not just about the aesthetics. There's a lot, there's more you can do. I have been really toying in my mind over the last few months, maybe just the summer actually, because my practice has changed over the years in the way, your practice has changed as well. Some of that is impacted by us just being more experienced and coming to different conclusions for our experience. And some of that is linked to policy changes or the curriculum evolving and changing, whatever. But I do feel like, and this might not be on a nationwide basis, but I do feel like the curriculum is, particularly like the afternoon curriculum, it's becoming more knowledge-based in terms of, it's just, the most important thing is you get the knowledge out there and the kids remember that knowledge. Like, it's become really, really important in recent years, right? And I personally feel like that has come with to the detriment of some of the things that might be seen as more aesthetic, but like the enjoyment of learning to an extent. And I'm really struggling teaching at the moment, the last couple of years, because I feel like I've shifted from maybe being a bit more like that kind of aesthetically pleasing teacher who would do lots of the fun wishy-washy things, to a bit more like, no, let's just crack on. Like you said, actually, if we are quiet now, we could do a bit more work. You could have got to the challenge. And I am just not convinced that is the best thing to do. I don't, it depends what is the purpose of like primary school. Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah, we teach the foundations, but for me, I think in my core, and it's always been this, is I just want kids to leave primary school enjoying the idea of learning. I don't really care. I actually don't care if they memorized the stuff about the Battle of 1066. I don't really care if they got onto the challenge and wrote a little diary entry in the style of William the Conqueror, right? I'm not too bothered. It's nice. But if that comes at the detriment, if it remotely makes them just find school a bit boring, it was just a bit of a drag, we just worked, then I just don't necessarily think that's a good thing. I don't know where I'm trying to go with this.
No, I get what you're saying, but I do think that in that case, if you're not bothered by your child getting onto a challenge in a lesson, it's probably a bad challenge. Like, do a different challenge that you think is good for the children to do, would be my answer to that. It's like, think of or plan a challenge which you think would be interesting or engaging for them to, or that they want to do. And I think I agree what you mean about, there is a huge thing on retrieval and, testing children to see if they remember what they learned 6 months ago, which is obviously not a bad thing to test them on, because otherwise why are we teaching them it? And I get what you're saying as, well, let's just go back to the start and kind of change what we're teaching in the first place. But there is a skills curriculum in the afternoon that we have to work through. That there is that skills curriculum there already. About thinking historically, for example, or thinking geographically. There are those core skills that go through every single topic, which I think are very important, and I would argue more important in the long term. For example, in history, to understand how sources work, or to understand the timeline of events in the macro level, or in geography to understand maps or the interactions of human and physical geography and stuff that go through everything, rather than remembering the capital of Uganda or remembering what year Tutankhamun's tomb was found. I'm not sure that's the most important thing to get out of primary school. I completely agree with you, but I think again, we're kind of going off the TikTok idea now, but I see a lot of TikToks, and maybe this is born out of this knowledge-based thing that we're obsessed with children remembering things. A lot of people, changing the lyrics to a Taylor Swift song. I saw one the other day where someone had changed every single lyric to a Taylor Swift song to remember the water cycle going through precipitation, condensation, all that good stuff, collection. And it was like a fantastic song, but it was like 2 minutes long. And sure, those kids might remember that now and in the long term understand it. But it just made me think, okay, how much learning is going on though if we're just memorizing the song? And I think everything needs to be tied in together in a really good lesson. I don't think it's any good just remembering facts. If you're teaching an afternoon lesson and you're just obsessed with telling the children facts and then writing the facts down and then telling their partner the facts and then asking them the facts at the end of the lesson, then asking them those facts next week, then asking them those facts in term 6, I'm not sure that's as useful as a really wholesome lesson with some entertaining task where they're still learning stuff. I think that's the important thing for me. Are the children learning things that are useful in this lesson? If you're valuing something that's aesthetic or something you think is fun or something you think is good above them learning something, then I think that's a bad thing.
See, this is where I'm torn, because I'm not convinced that song analogy you gave, for example, and I know what I think you kind of started saying something else afterwards, which is that you need to find the middle ground of where it's still quite fun and they're learning.
Well,
and it can't just be.
Does that song teach you what condensation is? Would be my point.
I mean, but it might do. So, like, there's children that do learn it because they think it's really cool that there's a song. I don't know. It's like if it was
wholesome
that
approach, everything. I'm saying if they're just learning a song, then that's not good teaching. But it might look good on a TikTok.
Right, okay. But if it's the song's only a couple of minutes long, they would have done more in that lesson.
Yeah, but like it was every single lyric. Like, if they had to learn this song and understand every single lyric, it would have, for it to be good teaching, you would have to break it off and, look into precipitation and do an experiment on the, we do experiments all the time on our windowsill where we see condensation happening or evaporation happening, them actually seeing the process rather than mimicking a song. And because what's the point in that? That's the same as what you're saying about knowledge.
Are you saying the song,
pointless.
the idea of the song is bad, or are you saying the idea of the song being the only thing they do in that lesson bad? Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying that I don't think mnemonics are bad, and I don't think that learning songs based to help you remember stuff is a bad idea, because it's been proven that obviously helps. We do times table songs and we encourage that. If children were only doing times table songs every day for their times table learning, there'd be a problem. And I wouldn't say times table songs is the best way to learn times tables. I'd say times table songs serve a purpose of trying to embed something into your memory, which is what you're saying is pointless in our afternoon lessons. And I agree. It's just learning a song for the sake of knowing facts and being able to spout them. But I want to see them doing experiments. I want to see them doing scientific inquiries. Yeah, sure. I want to see them understanding what the words mean by doing experiments, learning in the classroom, talking to their partner, doing group work, watching the teacher explain something properly. But what goes on TikTok is just a Taylor Swift song.
Yeah, okay. I get what you mean now. Yeah, sorry. Okay, I'm going to summarize what I think then, because I get what you're saying now. So I was worried that you were saying that the song was inherently bad and they should have done something else instead of it. And what you're saying is just showing that bit is like the classic toxicity of positive toxicity of, as if that's the highlight, as if that's the bit that they've learned it from. It's not really, because I'm thinking that was just probably a tiny little thing that they did to encourage some like, hey, this is a fun lesson in the lesson alongside all of the other stuff you said. Because I think if you did a whole lesson on the water cycle without that song and then did the same lesson on the water cycle and had that song in it somewhere as well, that lesson is always going to be better in my opinion, because it'll be a bit more fun. And I really, really, really value, maybe too much, but I really value kids having fun at school. I think it's so integral to them subliminally, I can't say that word, enjoying learning. And sometimes I would even sacrifice like a little bit of time that could be, we could have been, we could have been doing something that's more learning. I'm saying that in quotation marks, but I wanted to have fun with them because I want them to go home and be like, I did this really fun thing today in this lesson, and then maybe draw from that the actual learning that I was trying to get across.
You're right though, but what's interesting to me is you still made the link at the end. Why you wanted to have fun is because they drew learning from it.
Yes.
And because that's what I mean. So ultimately, still the aim always has to be what's going to get the most learning out of these children, because at the end of the day, they're at school to learn. It can be fun. Fun can be something we do along the way. And I would never say to someone who made a song, like who went through all that effort to do a Taylor Swift song, the kids would love it. I always do songs with my kids. We did the digestive system, and we got we got 6 children up, and someone had to do actions for the mouth, actions for the intestine, actions for the small, all the different parts of the digestive system, and they loved it. And 2 weeks later, I remember the assistant head came in and we were reenacting it, right? And all of the children remembered the order because they remembered, oh, it's that child, that child, that child, that child. And I remember that child did this funny thing for chewing. So I remember that's the first thing that happens, and saliva. And it was a hook onto all that learning we'd done. So I think that you're right. The overarching point, I suppose, here is that TikTok is a highlight reel. And if we're talking about good practice, it's not going to be the be all and end all. And you don't have to do exactly what you see on TikTok because you see people commenting going, oh, wow, every kid deserves a teacher like you because you've done a Taylor Swift song. It's awesome. It's fantastic. It's not bad. But we don't have to then think, oh, gosh, I need to write a Taylor Swift song for my lesson tomorrow, else this learning won't happen. No, it can.
So within this culture of TikTok and positive toxicity, as we're talking about, we've also seen a bit of a rise in teachers using TikTok within their classrooms to make content themselves as well. And that is something that I would argue before TikTok did not happen. But maybe tiny bits. Someone maybe did a YouTube video or something, but on the whole, that wasn't something you saw a lot. I think it comes with lots of different opinions and discussion points. I can see you nodding away, Dylan, thinking about this. So I don't know where you want to start on this, really, but I guess what's your gut reaction to the idea of teachers using TikTok to film their own videos?
Yeah, there is one distinction I wanted to make really quickly, and it was based on a Twitter poll that I did all about this. So we'll talk about that later. But before I start, I didn't make this clear, and I think there is a real distinction here between teachers who make TikToks, maybe in school or, educational or informative, outside of lesson time with no children present, and when we make TikToks during lesson time. There is a clear distinction there, and the opinions that we got online basically were almost predicated on that. I think many people think that if a teacher's making a TikTok and there's no children around, there's no issue. You can talk about whether you think that it's useful or whether you think that they, are giving good content. But I think it becomes a different conversation when there are children around during the filming of any kind of social media, videos and things like that. So I think the first thing to say is that if a teacher is recording funny TikToks, I've seen it before online. Someone pointed to an account that they follow, and they said, "Well, I don't think that this. No one can say that what this guy's doing is wrong or bad, because he just makes funny TikToks after school." Do you know what I mean? Like, you might not watch it, you might not, like we said with Mr. P when we spoke to him, it might not be our cup of tea. I for one actually quite like the TikToks that this guy does, this videos this guy does, but it's just down to him doing it in his classroom. There's no one around. That's up to him. But I think there's a big debate right now about filming during lesson time. And I think for me, the biggest thing, I don't like it personally. And it might be because our school's policy is really clear. If there's children around, your phone is not out. It's as simple as that.
Yeah. It's so hard because safeguarding, to anyone that's not in the education world, it is number one priority, even above learning. It is just so important. The safety of our kids is absolutely at all times number one priority, and anyone in education will agree. And it is just completely hypocritical, isn't it, to be able to say that and then also say, yeah, and it's all right if your phone's out, because at the end of the day, what a phone can do is it can take pictures of children. It can take videos of children. And if your phone is out, I don't care if someone's saying, oh, I'm doing a TikTok. How do you know they're not just filming you? Do you know what I mean? Like, there is always going to be a risk factor that someone's going to accuse you as a teacher who's got their phone out of, oh, you just took a picture of me. No, I didn't. No, I didn't. Yeah, you did. You've deleted it. You just took a picture and reported. There you go. Your phone. And if the policy says your phone shouldn't be out, that's it. Your job's gone. Like, is that worth the risk? But I also think on the complete flip side, that it is 100% down to the school's policy on how they manage their safeguarding. And as long as they're not breaching actual safeguarding rules in terms of actually taking pictures of children and videoing children, then it is kind of down to the school to decide what their acceptable use policy is on that thing. So I'm imagining the teachers that we see who do make TikToks and things in school, I'd like to think, otherwise they'd be breaking the rules horrendously and just risking their job for no reason. I'd like to think they've spoken to their head teacher and checked the policy to make sure that's allowed to do it. And their policy is probably something like, you're allowed to do this. You just cannot feature any evidence of children's names or faces in the videos. But it's hard, isn't it? Opens up a can of worms for that person, because the risk factor is then really high. Because if you accidentally do one of those things, there is a good chance you'll lose your job.
Yeah, exactly. And funny enough, what you said, it's from a guy called Omar. Lots of our listeners who are in the teacher world will know Omar. He does the teacher's manual. So he sells a couple of amazing books about the unofficial guide for, new teachers and things like that. And he does film videos. And he replied to our tweet, and he was saying how the policy he uses is really clear, basically. So the guidance that he uses in school is nothing that indicates the school, obviously, no logos or anything like that. Should be visible, and of course, no pupils. So it's that blanket. If he's following those two rules, it's safe. You're absolutely right when you say the can of worms comes with teachers who are using, lesson time. There, for a fact, the other side of that device, there are 30 children sat in a lesson, and I think the issue comes for me. Number one, I just think it shouldn't happen. I just think that's something we can just stay away from. I think maybe how people could get around it is perhaps they're filming on an iPad. That's a school iPad. That's immediately different to me than getting your personal phone out and recording something in a lesson. I think even if the policy is different, I'd still argue what you said at the start is still relevant. I don't think that because a school's policy says you can have your phone, I don't think that negates the risk for me as a teacher of a child turning around and saying, no, you did that. I don't know if I'd be comfortable pointing to the policy which says I could if a child accused me of taking a photo or taking a video when I shouldn't have. I'd still feel personally responsible for having my phone out in the first place. And I think that when you look at the results from the poll that we did, so I'll tell you now, we did a poll.
Go on.
It's basically, I just asked, we're doing a podcast later on TikTok about teachers recording themselves, very specifically about teachers recording themselves in the classroom. And the options were fine in all circumstances, okay if no kids' faces. So we see this a lot where we can hear the kids' voices, but there's no kids' faces, just on the teacher. Okay if no kids at all. So what we mean by that is you're in the classroom. It could be during the lesson, it could not be, but there's absolutely no evidence of the children whatsoever. And no phones in the classroom was the last one I put in. That's simple as that. Yeah. No phones out in the classroom. 62% of people said no phones in the classroom. So immediately, just our policy, no phones out, simple as that. 34% said okay if no kids at all. So between 34 and 62, that's 96% of people went for an option which was no kids at all. Whatever you're doing, if you're recording something, no children at all. 3% said okay if no kids' faces. So I assume people are thinking voices, okay, fine, whatever, but no faces. And then that classic 1%, fine in all circumstances. I'm sure that person just wanted to look at the results or something, because I don't think there are many teachers who think, okay, in all circumstances, you can just upload.
No. And it might not be a teacher. It might be someone else that just doesn't, think about safeguarding. I think, do you know where I'd sit on that? Because I think I'm different to you. In terms of from a policy standard, I actually don't have a problem. I would tick the okay as long as there's no children's faces. Basically what the other guy said, as long as you're not naming the school or naming any children or showing any children, I am actually completely okay with it, and I think it's absolutely fine. The only reason I probably still would not even allow that, if I was SLT, if I was a head teacher perhaps, I'd still probably not make that the policy, because I just think the risk factor is too high still. I don't think that there's any problem with a teacher doing that and following that policy. I just think they're going to slip up eventually. And the problem of them slipping up is way just not worth the risk.
If you think that a teacher's going to step up at some point, then of course that needs to not be a thing then, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But I'm saying I don't inherently have a problem with, I don't see if someone doing a video in class, right, where they've followed that policy perfectly fine and go like, oh, that's terrible, they shouldn't be doing that. I think that's terrible. I don't think that. But I think that's I think it's fine within limits, obviously. I think if someone did a 20-minute live stream in class and they're just completely wasting the time of the kids, then obviously that's terrible. A 20-second video, I think, can have its purposes. The kids might think you're cool. It might develop your relationship with them. They obviously engage with, it's their kind of generation, that sort of stuff that, it might enhance your relationship with them a little bit. But I still think as a leader, I would be like, yeah, I'm really cool with it, but how many videos is it going to take to you accidentally get a pupil's jumper in the background with our school on it and their name on it? And you've just not realized it and you had no intention to, but now we've got a massive case in our hands of safeguarding to deal with.
What's really
That's
interesting
what I'd be thinking.
Yeah, what's really interesting to me based on that is, do you not think then, you're saying it's on their level, it's the kind of thing they do. No child in a primary school should be on TikTok. So are we not glamorizing TikTok by saying, I'm making TikTok, kids, isn't that cool? It's like, well, actually, I don't really want you on TikTok because I know what the algorithm does for you. It's this idea of, you can't really give consent if you're an 8 or 9 year old. Even having your voice in the background, I don't know, I'd feel really uncomfortable if I'd sent my child to school, I came across a TikTok of their teacher. It had hundreds of TikToks over the time, even if my child's face wasn't in it, but I know it's during lesson time, and they hadn't even consulted me. I'd feel really off about that, and because it's an 8-year-old, my 8-year-old shouldn't be on TikTok anyway. And if you're not telling them it's going on TikTok, you're just secretly filming them, or you are telling them it's going on TikTok, and then they want to go on TikTok and see you.
That's such a good point. I didn't even think about that. Obviously, we've had this discussion before, and I know we've had this discussion before because obviously, alongside our teaching, we do other things as well. And we, at one point, made a TikTok account ourselves. We do tutoring, and a lot of our tutoring YouTube channel is focused on parents and families who are, preparing for certain things. And so we were like, let's make a TikTok because that's big now. This was like 2 years ago. And we very quickly, one, stopped really making videos, and two, turned off any interaction possibilities like comments and things because we were like, because we quickly were like, what are we doing? Are we doing exactly what you just said? Are we encouraging people that are too young to use TikTok by making videos where they can comment and things? Is this irresponsible? So we turned off all commenting and we haven't turned back since.
It's when we saw the comments, we were like, nope, wrong. Immediately we saw that because, just for clarification for everyone, this is not in a classroom. This is not anything to do with a school. This is us sat in our office making videos that are designed to, help talk through how to solve questions and stuff. So for parents, more than anything, to help them teach their children. So it's a very, very completely different argument in terms of there's no safeguarding whatsoever involved. But even at that level, when there's no safeguarding involved, when we realize that obviously some of the children in our school have TikTok, and obviously the algorithm is this unbelievable behemoth beast that will just find exactly what the children want to see. And as soon as we saw, oh my goodness, I think this is someone who may have spoken to, taught in school at some point, we shut it off completely. So I think maybe because we're coming from that background of even that made us feel uncomfortable, I personally can't fathom teachers in state schools or wherever it is with children without consent making TikToks and posting them. I think maybe that's why I'm on the complete other end of the scale. I'm like, I can't believe what you're doing. I just don't get it.
Can you imagine like being doing one of those videos and then like it goes quite viral because often they got a lot of views and like 15, 20, 30, 40 of those comments are literally the children that are in that video commenting, be like, that was me, that's my teacher. Because kids are proud, like they'd be well happy that their teacher's video went viral. They wouldn't see an issue with it, obviously. But yeah, I'd feel well awkward knowing, I've done this video. Yeah, all my kids are commenting on it. I could reply to them if I want to. It just opens up another line of safeguarding issues for SLT to consider.
Especially if you look at their comments and you scroll through, it's in between comments from 40, 50-year-olds who are weird on social media and post weird things and may have said something. We joked earlier about a troll on one of our videos. There could be a troll about their teacher, in there, like something horrible, or then something bad, or someone saying, I'd hate you as my teacher. And the fact that that's intertwined with the children in the video, because we're already fighting a battle against social media as teachers anyway, it's just horribly, horribly uncomfortable for me. And I think I'm vehemently against doing it personally.
Yeah. Do you know what? That's changed my mind a little bit. Just literally that conversation way more now towards, it's okay I still think after school's a bit different.
Yes, definitely.
I think
definitely.
If there are no voices from children and things, it's still different.
Do you find a difference between primary and secondary school on that argument? Because I think I tend to think there's a difference there, but I've never taught secondary. So, I might be thinking a year 7 or 8 child is inherently different to a year 6 child, which isn't necessarily true. But I feel like that gap is quite a big jump as well there. I feel more protective about primary school.
I think on one condition is that they're allowed to use the app by that age, by a certain age. I'm imagining children over 13 or whatever the age that, is now for those sorts of things. In my opinion, that's the only thing that makes a difference. And then equally, again, at 16 to 18, when people become legally adults and, then it's completely different again. So yeah, I do think it's different. A 7-year-old who shouldn't be on TikTok anyway, engaging with something, is very different in my opinion, to a 14-year-old engaging with the same sort of video. It's just not the same because they're allowed to be on the app. I still think I don't think it's much different. It's only slightly more on the scale. I think it should probably be treated the same. Like we generally have rules for children under 16 for a reason, blanket rules that don't actually change. So we probably shouldn't just be like, oh, they're a bit older now, so we can bend the rules a bit now, I guess. So, but no, the only thing is the age of the app.
Yeah, no, certainly. Just gonna like widen this chat here, I suppose, and go to a hot topic. I remember debating this when I was in year 8. Our English teacher was teaching us how to argue. My friend always jokes that that English teacher created me because I just love arguing and debating.
I was literally about to make that joke.
And I thank her for it every day. Mrs. Wheel, if you're for some reason listening to this, you are the reason why all my friends hate talking to me about anything that's remotely controversial. So thank you.
Including me.
Including you. So the idea basically, we're talking about kids on social media in general, which I think is one of the, if not the biggest problem with our youth currently. Maybe I'm naive. Obviously there are bigger actual problems, you know, if you're thinking county lines and, you know, gangs and things like that. Clearly that's a more serious problem, but it doesn't affect as many children. I think the widespread use of social media from a young age and the mixture of that with an algorithm which pushes something that they're interested in or get latched onto is one of the defining problems that we're going to have over the next 5-10 years with children. And we need to somehow work. I don't know what the answer is, but I'm really worried about it. What's your opinion on, and I'm talking primary school, very specifically primary school. Obviously we could have the social media chat. We know there are age restrictions. We know children shouldn't be on it, but they are. That's almost a discussion for a different time. We've touched on that. But what do you think about mobile phones? Because it's intertwined with social media. If the child has a smartphone, which they might want to use for a certain reason, that will automatically have the apps on it. So do you think primary school children should be allowed to bring in their smartphones into school?
Yes.
Okay. Right, yeah. That's good to know. I don't want to spend ages on it. I think I just want your idea because I know you're in year 6 and I know in secondary schools, for example, it's a completely different ball game because there's so many children and you know, you've got to let the kids have their phones. They're getting older, blah, blah, blah. Primary school, I hear a lot of different kind of policies on phones. I've heard some that ban them outright. I've heard some that let them for certain reasons. Just what's your general idea of, because this is the point, children bring in smartphones. Smartphones will have social media apps on them, which we know they're not supposed to be on, but they will just be on them. We know that's a fact. So we're introducing that into our school. For what benefit? I mean, you tell me, like, what do you think we should do in terms of schools and mobile phones?
Well, because there is that risk of the social media apps being on those phones, we cannot have a blanket policy that's just like, yeah, you can bring your phones in. So when I said yes, there was obviously a caveat to that. This is very simple. I just think there needs to be a policy that says to parents, your children can bring in your phone if they are walking home or leaving school by themselves and you want to monitor their whereabouts. Because that's what people do nowadays, isn't it? We use phones with like Find My Location stuff on it. Yeah. And it does, you can't argue that doesn't make it safer. You know, when we were at school, if we walked home, it was just inherently less safe because we had no way of tracking where we were. Sure. Our parents just had to rely on us getting home. Yeah. So I think that in that situation it is absolutely fine. But other than that, I don't think under any circumstance that children should be allowed their phones in school because all it does is open a can of worms with social media and TikTok. So
just to clarify, in your opinion, because again, I think I'm more old school, I would edge on, you know, no phones in school, but I completely get that parents might want that if they're walking home. And to me, that's enough for me to say, okay, yeah, sure, of course. I might not like it, but I can see why. So in terms of your thought process, I'm just thinking of, you know, when you hand the phones out to the children at the end of the day, handing an iPhone to 3 kids is going to put them on a pedestal, isn't it? Compared to the other kids who don't have them. So if someone doesn't walk into school or a family can't afford an iPhone, you know, is it enough of a detriment for children to see some kids having their phone given to them? Or do you think, doesn't matter, just got to get over it. It's about safety, is what it is.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I do think that last one, like, it doesn't matter that much. Like as if that's the moment where kids suddenly are only going to see each other's phones and stuff. You know? It's like they're good. If that's going to be a problem, that's going to be a problem anyway, regardless of me giving out their phones at the end of the day or not. I just don't think we need to worry about that. Yeah. But the problem does come of, again, and this has happened to me, is how you do it, right? So I've handed out phones before. Literally, just, you know, we're going over to that gate. We're going home now. Here's your phone. Put it in your bag because you're leaving now. I'm going to dismiss you all. And in that time, a child has got their phone out and started taking pictures or recording a TikTok. Yeah. And it became a big issue. And it was a safeguarding issue. It had to be logged properly. You know, it was you just think, oh my
course.
God, we have to have really strict policies.
Yeah, and just to make it a nice round circle back, I think that idea of us having really strict policies, I think we have to apply that to filming stuff. And I think the idea of doing that with children around, it's just don't do it. Don't open that can of worms. You might do it beautifully 99 times in a row, but let's just think about this. And nice little round bring back there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lovely.
We did this last time. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Okay, cool. That's lovely chat. Shall we? I think you had one little story, Hayden. Should we do a little jingle and then
yes, jingle time, baby. Welcome back from the jingle. I know, right? Still funny.
Did you make a cup of tea
joke.
in that time? Did you manage to?
Oh, Dylan, stop. Stop.
It,
You're just, oh my God.
What did you get
anyway,
done in that jingle time? I got a haircut.
Just-
Whoa.
I can't handle it. All right. So we're going to move on.
So funny.
So someone has written in, Dylan.
Ooh.
And it's a bit of a negative one. So I'm going to call it Toxicity in Schools, kind of. And,
It's right. We got the title for it haven't we, in this episode.
yeah, I suppose so. So this is what they wrote anyway. And it's not even a question, really. So enjoy. They said, I recently moved to the UK. Welcome to the UK.
Hey.
I'm a teacher and I've lasted about 6 months in the system.
Oh.
I'm completely exhausted, drained, and I cannot do it anymore. Education here is an underappreciated slog. I'm feeling very demotivated, but I need to get out of this career and I don't know what I want to do instead. So that's what they wrote. Yeah. Sorry.
She was falling off a cliff as she was writing it.
That's how you fall off a cliff, right? But yeah, I just thought it was interesting that it was nice. Thank you for writing in. It's nice that you thought that maybe we're someone to speak to. Or go on, Dylan.
No, because it's what I really, really want to say. Because as soon as you said move from the UK, I love that this person wrote in because I'm going to come on a little byline here. How many different countries do you think listen to this podcast? Because it blew my mind. So it's got all the data on Spotify for podcasters. How many different countries has this podcast been streamed into?
God, you're exposing the fact that I never look at the data. You look at it all the time. I don't know, 5?
5. You'd think 5,
A couple
right?
of European countries.
Yeah.
Yeah, surely.
Higher
UK,
than 5.
a couple of others. 10.
Higher than 10.
20.
Higher than 20.
Doubling.
Higher than 20.
No. Yep. Oh, I thought that was going to be the...
Yep.
I don't know. Tell me then. I have no idea.
33 different countries.
Wow.
I promise you. That, yeah, you sound really infused. 33 different countries.
I'm just thinking that can't be racket. Surely
100%.
not.
100%. 33.
Wow.
So if
Love that.
this person who wrote in, if you're listening, he or she, I don't know who you are, can you also let us know what country you moved from? Because I look at this list, right? And I think, it makes sense. Australia, United States, Ireland, all in the top 5.
Mm-hmm.
Germany, a lot of people in Germany, they speak English. Zambia. Oh, okay.
As you do.
Thailand.
Yeah.
Taiwan, Hong Kong, Qatar, Tanzania, Turkey, Cyprus, Portugal, Malaysia,
way.
Netherlands, United Arab Emirates, Nepal. We've had a stream in Nepal.
Right.
Amazing.
If you are the person or people from those countries listening to this episode, please write into us and just say, hey, that's me and I'm from wherever.
Yeah.
We'd love to connect with you.
Amazing.
More.
Anyway, back to your sorry, I got very excited then because I thought, an excuse to say 33 countries. But yeah, it's a drain, isn't it? 6 months in the system and already.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much to say about this really. I think they just wanted to vent a little bit. Or my only advice really to that person would be, don't give up in the country in general. Like, don't give up thinking you can't do something. There are some really good Facebook groups, for example, where people go and just basically share their stories and talk about other things they've done after teaching that might be worth joining, just to kind of get some more opinions on what else you could do. But it is a shame, isn't it? I thought it was worth sharing, Dylan, because it's like, doesn't that just summarize some of the things we spoke about in this podcast?
And I think if that person wants some advice from me, it's to go into TikTok and watch how good everyone else is.
There you go. Wow. Oh dear. But that's it.
Cool. Well, as always, I must just say, please get in touch with us. And I don't care if it's, a 2-word hello. I don't care what it is. If you're listening to this podcast right now, 2-word hello. Don't know what that is. Hello there.
That's why I'm laughing. Hello there. Hello there.
Yeah, if it was just that, I might be a bit worried. But please, can you just get in touch with us? Because we love doing this. We love hearing your stories, but we also just want to know who's actually listening to this podcast, because we see all these numbers going up every week. We see our followers going up, the plays going up. It's really encouraging, but we want to hear from you. So if you listen to this podcast, you've got this far into this episode and you've heard us say this, get in touch with us. We are on Instagram, Teach Sleep Repeat Podcast. We are on Gmail, teachsleeprepeatpod@gmail.com. We have just got a Facebook page that I've linked to our Instagram. So if you search on Facebook, Teach Sleep Repeat Podcast, we'll be on there. So you can message us on there, you can comment. Guys, just get involved. We love hearing from you. And Hayden, we have some progress on the 5-star reviews when it comes to Apple
I
Podcasts.
was actually about to ask about Apple.
We are now on 12 reviews. So we've got an extra 3 or 4, I think, that is helping us battle against that pesky 1-star review. So we're up to 4.6 or 4.7 now. Guys, if you have an iPhone, please go and give us a 5-star review on there. If you have any phone whatsoever, even if it's an iPhone, you can give us a double review. Please give us a 5-star review on Spotify. We're up to nearly 50 5-star reviews on Spotify. It's so helpful to us because if someone stumbles across the podcast and you enjoy it, if you let them know, it helps us out because they're going to click on us and we're going to grow and grow.
Love it. And you looked at the camera then.
I did, because people who are watching, I can see you. Press that 5-star review.
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah. Notice I haven't been biased this week to people who are watching.
You haven't?
You complained last week, didn't you? You told me off.
You always call them, viewers. And I'm all here for everyone. Okay, everyone's equal in my eyes, whether they're watching or listening. And that's what I'll do for you guys. I'm here for you. Hayden, he's in for one certain type of watcher.
Unless you haven't got an iPhone, in which case he's not interested in you because you can't leave a review on Apple.
I want your Spotify reviews, please. Thank you very much. But yeah, Hayden, should we wrap up there? I've really enjoyed this one, actually. It's been a great, wanted to do this for a little while. Hopefully, obviously, I know I've changed your mind completely because that's what happens. We talk for half an hour and then you agree with me. That's fine. How did you find it?
Well, we'll see about that. Let's see what people find. I thought it was interesting. I could definitely talk more about the whole issue of like finding education fun and like balancing that with the learning, which is obviously the kind of the point of school. But maybe we'll continue that conversation in a few months' time. Another episode once we've heard some opinions from our lovely viewer/listeners.
Oh, well done. Guys, catch you next time.